Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting for March 6, 2017. Please join me in standing for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Bob?
Father God, we thank you for this day. God, we thank you for how you continue to bless us and keep us. And God, you gave us a day we have not seen before, God. You didn't have to do it, but you did. Father God, our hearts are heavy tonight. We're prayerful for Josh and for Vicky. God, you never know what a day is going to bring, but God, we thank you for how you're keeping power. We pray for their recoveries. We pray, God, that you continue to watch over them and be with their families. Give them the strength to hold up as they go through this ordeal. God, we know you are a healing God, and if anybody knows you well and has ever been in this situation, their families, they know, God, you can bring them both through this as soon as possible and quickly as possible. Great, we're praying, God, that you heal them both. God, take care of them and watch over them. God, we pray for this council. God, be with them, watch over their families, keep them safe. Pray for all their health also, Father God. We pray, Lord, that you watch over them and help us all to do what we need to do to take care of ourselves. We pray for our staff of our community, our staff of our city. As you be with them and watch over them. Pray for our first responders as we always do. We don't ever want to take for granted what they do for us, God. God, there's been so many fires in our communities and things going on, God. We pray, Lord, you keep us safe. Help us to watch out for our families. God, we pray no one gets hurt, no lives are lost. But God, we help us to make sure we do the things we need to do to take care of one another. God, we ask you also, Lord, to be with every person that's present tonight. Be with them and watch over them. Help them to be with their families also, God. And all the business that we have to take care of tonight, we invoke your presence, that you come in and be with us, that we'll do it well and decent and in order. We ask it all in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Bobby. Have a roll call, please.
Councilperson White. Councilperson Zastani. Councilperson Yan.
Present.
Councilperson Maples.
Here.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Here.
Council President Gill.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Tamian.
Here.
I need approval of the minutes from our proceedings of February 21st, 2017. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any comments or questions we move forward with the minutes? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the agenda.
If there are no changes, motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Claims to be approved. Heather.
We have the regular claims tonight for $613,957.74.
And I did go in and review claims. I know a couple of council members had a question about I believe it's like 110,000. That might be in parts, so, but I'll just go ahead and finish my thought. That was because the contract for the Big Four, they're paying it like we did the security pros. You get a reduction in the amount for paying the full amount for the year and paying early, so to speak. But other than that, everything else is in order. If there's any questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the claims of $613,957.74. There's no further discussion or comments from anybody? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Okay. And then we have parks claims for $162,317.36.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second.
With a question. On the claims for the Big Four station for $116,000 for the cleaning of it, do you know the terms of that, the discount, or And
2% discount, but I don't know what that dollar amount was. I know we got I believe it was 2%.
I think so. I can look into it.
Then it's for February 1st to December 31st.
Yeah, I can email you the contract.
You said through
That's
December?
the Big Four, maintenance of Big Four, the maintenance, for the bathrooms, and then also, I believe, the dog stations that we have there, too. Am I right, Mr. Merkley? Did I leave anything?
And will we expected to see additional claims through the month, for the months, or is this for the year?
Nope, we prepaid the total amount.
Yeah, that's the annual amount.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve $162,317.36 of the parks claims, so all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Our clerk is out, but is there anything, Patsy, from the clerk's office that needs to be reported on tonight?
Nothing right now.
All right, then we'll move right into our unfinished business. Mr. Merkley, 2017 OR7, it's the ordinance changing the zoning map from a C2 to a C2 PUD on New Chapel and Utica Salisbury Road.
At your last meeting, this came in front of you. I think you even had a public hearing, but it was tabled. This is a rezoning request for property at 30, not sure if this is the right.
It's the New Chapel and Utica Salisbury Road.
But I think it's different in my packet on the...
I don't think we have a specific address list other than,
This is 2000, I'm looking for it in the packet, 2007. There you go.
we have the developer here if he has the address.
Brandon Denton filed a rezoning request for the Planning Commission for property that's at New Chapel and Utica Salisbury Road. It was tabled at the last meeting at the Planning Commission on January 31st. It was given a favorable recommendation. It is to zone this property, the entire development from its several parcels, to zone those parcels from C2, medium to large scale general commercial, to a PUD for medium to large scale general commercial. I think there were some issues or some concerns at the last meeting in reference to one parcel that faces Highway 62, in which the BZA gave a variance to operate a gas station at that location. And I understand the council's concerns, but I just wanted to sort of outline where we're at in this process. First of all, the time has started. 90 days from the date of the Planning Commission meeting, the council needs to act. Act means you either voted up or voted down. Tabling is not action, so you can table it again, but at some point that 90 days is going to expire. If no action is taken within that 90 days, the Planning Commission's recommendation would stand, which would be favorable, and it would be rezoned. Just to outline, I think you have three options in front of you. You can approve it as presented, you can disapprove it, vote it down, or you could approve it with a contingency. That contingency being in a way to rest your concerns regarding the gas station, but any contingency would then require to go back to the Planning Commission for their blessing or for its approval. So I believe we do have a representative from here on behalf of the applicant, Brandon Denton. I believe a presentation was made at the last meeting, but if you have any other questions, I think they are here. I'm fairly certain the public hearing occurred at the last meeting.
Yeah, but I'm going to open up another one just
I
in
think
case.
Nathan Pruitt's here as well, if you have any questions from planning and
Mr.
zoning.
Merkley, I have a question.
Sure.
Is there a fourth option where the developer can just voluntarily agree to a condition not to put a gas station there?
Yes. And one thing I wanted to point out, they could just withdraw their request to zone this as a PUD. It's my understanding the parcel where there is a proposed gas station is already C2, and they've received the variance to operate a gas station there, so they could, whether this goes through tonight or not, They could operate a gas station there as a matter of right now because it's C2 and they've received a variance. Nathan could speak more on the entire development area, whether it's all C2. I believe it is, but I may be wrong, but I do know this parcel that is of concern is currently C2, and the BZA did grant the variance for the gas station. So even if you vote the PUD down tonight, you just have to realize there's still the possibility that a gas station could be there.
Okay, thank you. Does council have any questions? I do want to open up a public hearing again since it was tabled. Does anybody have any questions before I do that? Okay. So at this time, we're going to officially open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here that we wish to speak before or against this rezone from a C2 to a C2 PUD? Okay, seeing none, I'm officially closed public hearing. Any questions for the developer or Nathan? Okay. Well, so I need to reopen public.
Yeah, I think somebody, those things signed up for
it, so I think people. Okay, we're going to backtrack again. I'm going to reopen the public hearing because apparently 3 did sign up, so I'm just going to officially open the public hearing and we'll just see if they want to speak or not. Scott Hannon, 603 North Shore. Oh.
I wasn't sure if if it was a public hearing, I could speak, but I'm with the applicant, and Tommy is here with the applicant as well. He's the owner, so we're here to answer questions.
Thank you.
You don't have anything to speak to, you're just available.
Yeah, I'm just available, yes. I went ahead and signed it.
So then I'm sure then that Tommy, okay, then we have Richard Eklund. You wish to speak?
Yes, Richard Eklund, 1608 Flintlock Drive. I attended the planning and zoning meeting and also the BZA meeting, and I was aware that there is an ordinance in the community. I believe it was put in place to address planned development, and I thought it was a good ordinance. Just looking up 10th Street, one way we learn is looking to what we did wrong in the past, and there's a number of locations on 10th Street now that were formerly gas stations and they are now unoccupied and don't appear to be extremely attractive to anybody to develop them. So I could be corrected. I think when the presentation was made as far as why they wanted the gas station there, it was basically because they wanted to have a gas station there, and said it would be a good location. I'm not here to argue about that, but I'm just saying there's an ordinance already in place, and this would be the 5th gas station in that area. So it could be a fantastic gas station, but say it is, and it doesn't go under. How's it going to impact the other 4? It only takes one, and then we've got an eyesore and an abandoned site, and it's an issue. So I am not opposed to the developer developing that area. I think it can be done without a gas station, and I think there can be some very attractive development there. It's just unfortunate that the developer came too late, as far as I'm concerned. The ordinance was already in place, and to grant him the ability to put a gas station there, might as well abolish the ordinance if you're not going to follow the guidelines. Thank you.
Just to double check, there's nobody here that wish to speak on this issue. Okay, then I'm going to officially close the public hearing again. So I will just...
I have a question, maybe a series. What was the vote? It says favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission for the approval. So what was the vote at the Plan Commission hearing?
It was, I think it was unanimous.
Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't brought up that there was a gas station there. It wasn't brought to anyone's attention. It was only after the BZA meeting that we found out the gas station was going to be there.
I thought the gentleman just said that it was brought up in the presentation.
Not at planning and zoning. At BZA.
Okay.
And my hope is, I was the one that brought up the issue, and I said, maybe it'd be best to table it. My hope was that they'd come back, or someone would come back and say, hey, we really don't need a gas station there, because I think that's what was said at the meeting, and I've heard that since, but I guess that's not the case. I guess they still want to have a gas station there. Unfortunately, I hate to see that, because I think we try to set the community standards here the best we can, and don't, as we look to our community and see the different streets develop and what would be good there as far as traffic and amenities and wages and everything else that we try to take into account as we set up our zoning codes. I think it's unfortunate that they're still, pushing to put a gas station there.
So,
I think the development other than that is fantastic in all respects, and I don't have any, anything bad to say to the developer or the development other than it's not conforming with the ordinance that we recently passed, and unfortunately, for me personally, I'm going to have to vote against it because of that.
did anybody else have anything?
Something I brought up at the last meeting, and we weren't sure on the distances, so I have since measured. The Vissing gas station, if you start at Huck's, which is at the end of Carrie Ann Way, and make that
Number one.
and start working your way back to town, you have a Circle K at .3. This proposed, which I wasn't sure exactly where this was, but I'm assuming it's outlot 7. Is that outlot 7 it's kind of in the corner, right on the access road?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's what I assume. So that would be at so we have Huck's, Circle K at .3, the proposed at .6, Kroger on the other side of 265, 1.5, and then Vissing starts to get kind of way, that's at 2.0. And I brought those up last time because I didn't know how far they were. So I think Vissing is kind of out of the mix because that would be further. But no matter how you kind of want to make your starting point, I saw an email walking in the door that said, trying to explain what the intent of the ordinance was. Well, I didn't share maybe that person's view of the intent of the ordinance because I thought the intent of the ordinance was to limit the number of gas stations in any stretch. That's what I thought it was. So other people that's why I passed it. I was on planning at the time. So I'm almost word for word with what Ed said. I don't want, the people of my district of which this lies, do not require nor want another gas station. In the end, I know I don't bend to their will constantly, but I am certain of the fact that if given the choice, they would not want another gas station. I mean, Jeffersonville is kind of the king of gas stations, banks, and drive-through restaurants. So if we could do anything to change that's where I'm going to be.
I guess ultimately, I agree we don't need another gas station. I don't think I'm going to vote for this because of that, but I don't understand how the Plan Commission can approve with a favorable recommendation a planned development and not know that there's a gas station component, when in the very next meeting, it's been published that they're going to ask for a gas station. It's a planned development, that's what it's called, and it was approved without knowing what the development was planned.
Because they don't give you all the uses.
Right, but in the very next meeting, it was advertised the use, or
Your planning and zoning don't get a copy of that advertisement, nor do they stay for that meeting. It's another meeting afterwards.
and I think that's the other frustration is we passed that ordinance to restrict gas stations. Why are the BZA what was the reason given from the BZA for approving the variance? We've got to have people on this BZA that are going to stick to the standards that we as a council put in place. Otherwise, what's the point? It's like Mr. Eklund said, if we're just going to grant variances, what's the point of having the ordinance?
And to that, you brought up some valid points, but also I do not believe, at least I haven't seen it. We don't get the agendas for the BZA in planning and zoning. And our planning and zoning meetings, they last quite a few hours, which is fine. That's what I signed up for. But personally, I don't stay for BZA unless there's something particular in my district. So I didn't have any idea that there was a gas station planned. Just wanted to hear my...
I know. It's
And
just
I got
frustrating.
one
It
last
is.
side of
It was
this.
very,
I agree.
You said that if they decide that they don't want to do a PUD, that this is still zoned and they could come and put a gas station in that spot. Would that not have to come back, so that would not have to come back to this body?
If you vote the PUD down, the current zoning will stand, which means it's C2, and they have received a variance to operate a gas station within the C2.
So the C2 redesignation that BZA granted a variance to was not under the umbrella of a PUD?
No,
Did I say that right? Did you?
that's correct. Now, I'm going to give my 2 cents here. I'm assuming, I'm assuming they would prefer a PUD because it's going to be easier for them to develop this property. That's why I threw out there as an option is that you approve this PUD contingent upon them agreeing that they would not operate a gas station in the PUD. That doesn't mean they're going to have to agree to that. And if they agree to that, it's going to be rezoned PUD, and there's going to be a written, recorded commitment that they're not going to have a gas station within that development. Now, if they do not do that, they still could go forward with operating a gas station there, but then they're going to have all these different parcels in their development that are all zone C2 as opposed to a planned development, which developers prefer a planned development.
So if we make the motion, it goes back to planning and zoning, and if they say...
They would have to approve it.
And
Any
then it's
changes...
done? It doesn't have to come back to the
yes.
council again?
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and make that motion to move this along, that we go ahead and approve the PUD with the condition of no gas stations.
With them agreeing.
With them agreeing, with a written commitment, agreeing not to have a gas station there. That's my motion.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? I will add to that I sure hope, we've got our director sitting there and the attorney for BZA. I sure hope we're not put in this spot again, that information goes to the BZA, maybe a copy of our ordinance would be suffice to give to the members of BZA. So is there any further discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries.
Dustin.
Dustin White, second that.
before we move on, can I ask a question
Okay.
for the attorneys? So, and maybe this is for Mr. Merkley or Mr. Pruitt. If we have a situation where there's a plan development going before the Plan Commission, could we not, I understand the Plan Commission and the BZA are two separate bodies and they have two separate functions, but when it comes to a plan development that goes in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, if their subsequent appeals, going to the BZA, could we not have that information go to the Plan Commission ahead of time before they approve the PUD? Because I don't feel like this would have been approved at all had that information gone to the Plan Commission to begin with.
I don't recall what transpired at this meeting, and I'm sure what is said is what actually transpired, but normally, from my experience, is that when usually there's a rezoning, usually it's brought up that there are certain variances and waivers that are part of that. That's sort of where we got into a stickler here, because I don't believe that this PUD, when it was before the Planning Commission, I don't believe the motion was made to rezone this to a PUD and then contingent on those waivers or variances. I mean, normally, am I going to correct, Nathan, that normally you tell...
It's usually contingent upon approval
Yeah.
from BZA, and I don't think that motion might not
I don't
have
believe
been
it.
made.
So that's where we're at. So,
I brought those up, as you all remember. I didn't think some of it.
I mean, normally they make a full presentation, and usually they'll say usually, you know, that they need these variances and these waivers and so forth. Now, I don't recall what happened at that meeting. That was too far long ago for me to remember.
I'd like to move on if that's okay. Moving on, we have Heather Metcalf for the 2017 OR 9 ordinance of addition appropriation did pass in first and second. Is there any changes, Heather?
No.
Okay, so therefore I'm going to open the public hearing.
Sure.
So, do we have it up so they know what we're, okay. Is there anybody here, I'm officially opening up public hearing if there's anybody here that wishes to speak before or against this additional appropriation of 2017 OR 9. Okay, seeing none, I'm officially closed, and if nothing changed, then I will go ahead and entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further questions, discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Great.
Heather, you're still up. Under new business, we have our 2016 annual report that with encumbrance of outstanding 2-year-old checks. Is there anything that you need to speak on before I...
Not necessarily unless anyone has any questions. It's standard report that we do every year.
You all have the annual report in your packet, and we do need to do this in 3 motions. The first motion, we need a motion to accept the annual report into the record. But before I do that, I just want to make sure that nobody has any questions for Heather before I move on to entertain motions.
Yeah, it's all public on the Gateway site also.
Yeah. It's all pretty, everything we passed in the budget. is basically
Anything
like-
like out of the ordinary with this report as opposed to reports?
I don't
prior?
think so.
Included in this, are we going over canceled checks? Is that right?
That will be your third motion.
That'll be the third one. Okay. Well, I'll ask when we get to that point.
Okay.
So the first motion I'll entertain is to accept the annual report into record.
Wait.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Our second motion needs to be to accept the outstanding 2-year-old checks into the record. So is this probably appropriate time for...
That's fine. Yep. Mhm.
Well, I'll make the motion.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. So do we have some comments, questions?
My question was in regard, does this include, I know it's checks 2 years or older, but does it include the check that I returned at the
No, that was voided.
fall last year, so that's voided?
Mhm. Yes. These would go to unclaimed properties.
Okay, so that's already been processed?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Any further comment or questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. And the third motion I need is to accept into the record the encumbrances of the outstanding 2-year-old checks.
No, the encumbrances from
Encumbrances.
2016.
Oh, I'm
Mhm.
sorry,
16.
2016.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Heather.
Those are also reflected, the totals on your 12-line statement too. Thank you.
Nathan Pruitt, 10th Street Corridor Planning for I-65 to I-265.
One reading.
I think so.
All right, good evening. Let me get set up here real quick. Should be pretty short. All right. So I'm coming before you tonight after working through basically an RFP and a directive from the comprehensive plan that sets forth obviously our vision for the city from land use and aesthetic improvements, basic public facilities, all those kinds of things. Obviously this is our 2035 comprehensive plan adopted by council in 2015, so it sets a vision for 20 years out. I went to the Redevelopment Commission, and as something that has been talked about numerous times with many of the changes that are happening on 10th Street and projects that are happening, we We have been talking about on planning, plan commission, as well as at city council numerous times, and redevelopment, that 10th Street needs some significant assessment moving forward, especially the older portion of 10th Street, the part that was originally built out in the 50s and 60s for commercial development. That area specifically needs a little bit of assessment just to set us on a trend forward that's going to make that area most beneficial for future use. And so, you know the story. We've talked about 10th Street over and over again. We've got some poor design, I'd say architectural design and site layout design, and some land use decisions that are kind of creating a liability for us in that area of 10th Street. So we want to look at changing some of that for us. These are some of the existing conditions out there right now. We've got some vacant land, some aging buildings. Older developments are deteriorating somewhat. We've got some contaminated lots, obviously, underdeveloped lots, things like that. And I think we know some of the issues at hand here. Just want to give you a brief history here. So like I said, the 2015 comprehensive plan, which I brought with me today, you can see it's earmarked. I've referenced this quite often and try to implement as many tasks out of that back section as possible. There's about 25 action items. It recommends significant assessment of 10th Street. And we've already kind of started this process. We didn't just start with this RFP for a 10th Street plan. We started with taking a pause on new uses that are auto-centric in the corridor and taking a look at our code. After that, we adopted an overlay ordinance, and then we revised some of our auto standards, especially related to used cars and vehicle maintenance and things like that. So we did those two steps. We're currently under step 3, I would say. So this is a project that's been long running for 30 to 40 years. It's been talked about. Obviously, it's about to get under construction. This is the 10th Street widening, which is improving crosswalks, sidewalks, landscaping, your turn lanes. It's making safety as well as connectivity improvements along the corridor as well as lighting. So it's really going to boost the value of the corridor. And this project, of course, is in the $16 million range, goes from Penn Street to Reed's Lane. So this is going to be a huge improvement for the corridor. It's very likely going to boost interest in properties that are along 10th Street that have previously not been as attractive. And we're hoping that's the case to help spur some development. So we've got 2 action steps on the plan, Step 8 and Step 17, one of which is the market study for 10th Street. So we need to take an assessment of where we are as a community with all commercial uses in the city. What is the market support? How many more fast convenience places do we need? Probably not as many as we need. Other things, sit-down restaurants, those types of things. So one of the recommendations of the comprehensive plan is to actually get a market study that addresses 10th Street. It's obviously going to needs to take into account any new developments that are happening on that northern part of 10th Street. And then the second step there is creating a corridor master plan, and that talks more about things like signage and wayfinding and pedestrian connections and things like that. I'll get to more of those in a minute. But basically, we're looking at creating a coordinated, planned improvement for the area, and it's already begun with public investment. After public investment, you usually see private investment. So we're anticipating that to happen. So the bigger overall goal here is to ensure that there's success after the road widening project, that we have a plan set in place that as new development interest comes in, we've kind of got a direction, an official direction and policy to follow as we move forward. So this would be considered like a corridor plan, a master plan. You could also call it a neighborhood plan, a thoroughfare plan. Any of those would work. But it's basically going to look at that kind of deteriorated section and what can we do for retention and redevelopment. And that's everything from grant programs to business incentive programs. Rob Ways is, obviously we've talked numerous times about moving some of the things that we've done in downtown before, which is restaurant forgivable loans, things like that, to 10th Street. So we'd like to have a consultant team actually put together a broad package of things that are seen across the nation, across different cities, that could help with those efforts as well. So project goals, we're looking at a long-term vision for the corridor, so we want to say, okay, in 10 years we want it to look like this. These are the type of uses we want. This is how the design of the corridor should be established, the architectural standards, things like that. There could be lots of different improvements. You can see there's specific recommendations, could include both physical improvements. We could look at our zoning code and some controls there, transportation enhancements, and some targeted redevelopment as well. So quite a few things. So here's the bullet list. If I were to compartmentalize what this plan will be into 3 sections. It would be looking at land use, looking at transportation, and then looking at urban design. Those are the 3 basic components of any commercial corridor that you're going to see in most any city. So land use talks about what type of uses. That's going to get into the market study. So there's going to be an economic and component to this plan. Zoning recommendations, again, those are your land use controls. Where can we have targeted areas for redevelopment? So where are some parcels that are underperforming? What can we leverage them to? What could they turn into instead if they're not being highly utilized? Basically, overall development form. Those are all things in land use. Transportation, we'd like to obviously keep our traffic flow and accessibility well served throughout the corridor. TARC obviously has service going out to River Ridge. Here, we want to make sure that everyone has good TARC service. That's our public transportation bus system that we have with Louisville Metro. Intersection safety, we want to make sure people, as they cross intersections and go to these different establishments from neighborhoods or off their public TARC system, that they can get there safely and without harm. Pedestrian bike infrastructure, obviously that's something we always need to make sure we provide some connectivity, so we need to look at always ways to improve that, make it safer. The third component there is urban design. So this is going to be things that I think probably people see and they say, wow, that looks really good. So wayfinding signage, things like pedestrian amenities, so these are your benches, things like that. Street lighting, so things look brighter and nicer. You can see things better and find them. Public art, obviously that is continually expanding, as we've seen on Allison Lane. I think there's more opportunities on 10th Street than we've currently have in place. Building locations are obviously very important to urban form, as well as design guidelines. Those are like your architectural standards and things like that. So these are all I'm hoping that what happens is when a consultant, and we've written the RFP kind of in this manner, and we'll certainly share this if this were to move forward after tonight. We're going to share this with the potential consultants that we'd like to hire, and we want them basically to check mark every single box and give us recommendations, actual, concrete, physical, and quality recommendations to make all of these things better for our community on 10th Street. So we put together just a generic timeline of what we think could happen. Basically, that first column there runs through kind of like that kickoff phase where you kick off the project and you start doing a lot of data analysis after project selection, consultant selection. The second portion there is kind of a second half of a year, and would probably take at least 6 to 8 months, and that's going to involve public meetings with any business associations, the public at large, your different council districts that abut this area, any interested business owners, transportation professionals, KIPTA, the engineering department will have an in-house meeting as well between all the different departments, redevelopment and engineering and such. Then we'll get into a draft plan, hopefully, fairly quickly. We'll have that out for public comment. We'll have that out for comment from council, redevelopment, planning, engineering. Make tweaks to that, send it back, bring it back to us, and eventually adopt it, just as we did with comprehensive plan, but it'll be a document specifically for 10th Street. So it's really going to get into some really specific, concrete examples of where we should go on 10th Street rather than being community-wide. This is great, but this doesn't get into the nuts and bolts of specifics, and especially in specific areas of the city where there's unique constraints and challenges. So that's the benefit of doing neighborhood plans. And I'll talk about Spring Street here in a minute. I don't know if you all are realizing we're actually doing that in-house. So we can do some things in-house, but we can't do really, really large projects just from staff accommodations and how much staff time we have. Cost and funding. So we are anticipating this cost to be between $120 and $150. It could come in much less. That is undetermined at this time, but this is a general cost range for a large planning document that takes into account miles and miles of roadway, hundreds and hundreds of parcels, with many, many intersections. It's a large undertaking. It's not a small neighborhood plan of, a mile of roadway. So what we're looking at is that if this were to be the cost of the project, it's going to be less than 1% of the 10th Street project. I think it's 0.9% of the entire $16 million improvement that the city already is investing and know is really important for the corridor. So we just want to make sure that we can have a plan that is addressing those future conditions afterwards and all that new interest. So we're asking for a joint commitment from City Council and Redevelopment Commission to fund this. Redevelopment Commission made an approval of a $75,000 amount contingent upon an equal funding from City Council. So we're looking for a 50-50 cost share. If the project were to come in under this value, It would still be a 50/50 cost share, not to exceed the 75. So if, we came in at 80 grand, it would be 40/40. But basically, this is what we're asking for. So again, like I said, with Spring Street, for instance, we have a March 14th meeting. We're doing basically from Riverside Drive all the way up to Eastern Boulevard, and we're looking at intersection improvements, pedestrian safety improvements as well, TARC service improvements, our landscaping, our signage and wayfinding, and some public art, and many, many other things on Spring Street. That's a plan that my department can handle because it's within a specific targeted area of a couple miles. And so we're doing as much advanced long-range planning as we can to help neighborhoods like Claysburg, downtown, the New Arts and Cultural District, but some things are just too big sometimes for us to do in-house. So I'm hoping that we can move forward with a consultant-driven plan, and they can get us a quality product moving forward. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Well, I got a comment.
Sure.
Since Nathan took Director of Planning and Zoning, he's kind of been hearing from me since day one. I've been taking the voice from my district and concerns from my district to him, and that there's a lot of exciting things going on in Jeff, but a lot of that's happening in the 1st District and the 6th District and out in by Veterans Parkway and all that, so we're kind of got all this great thing and great development things happen all around us, but you got my district that's kind of in there, and I don't know who, is it 4th District? Do you need 10th Street, or is that Ed? Yeah, so it's kind of 4th, so it's several of our districts, where I think I'm excited about this, I think this will address a lot of that, so we won't have just this forgotten little part of the city as we're growing. So I just wanted to speak up I heard that repeatedly when I went door to door. They're concerned about, we're doing all this growth, but let's remember the rest of the city too, so no donut holes.
Somebody help me out, maybe Matthew, Matt. When is the, or less, project completion date for the Y? When are we looking to be done?
10th Street
Correct.
by next December of 2018.
December of 2018.
Is that your only question, Scott?
I'm formulating another one. You go ahead.
I surprisingly just have one question tonight, so that's a first. How many consultants do you expect to respond to and submit proposals?
I'm hoping we get 3. That's about an average that we'll get.
Okay.
Generally.
It seems like a very large project, so I was concerned that consultants might not be willing to put that much work into something. But
they'll probably have a team. They'll have a team of probably 3, and that's what we're actually probably going to be looking for, is that it not just be a planning office that submits, it's going to be a planning office with some subs or equal partners in the project that will share the project burden. So it'll be someone involved in redevelopment and economic analysis as a kind of a third. The other third will be potentially transportation, but especially planning as well as the market forces side of things and an economic analysis kind of person or consultant. So it'll be a team of people, hopefully. It won't just be a one named group.
I have a question. Should from a timing standpoint, should this report have been done sooner? I mean, before we actually outline the infrastructure of 10th Street, so you can kind of figure out some of the safety and some of the sidewalks and some of the amenities and look?
In a best case world, yeah, this would have been done about 5 years ago before the project got engineered out. But I don't think that's something that should make you shy away from supporting something like this, just because of the fact that there's always more improvements that could be made.
Totally agree. Totally agree. But with this, I'm not looking to go against this agreement, not at all. But I guess the point is, if it comes in with some recommendations to make changes, I guess we'd have to consider spending more money to make those changes, right? I mean, that's a possibility of what we might find from this study.
Sure. It could. It's going to set a tone again for another 10 years, 10 to even 15 to 20 years out. So, yeah, there could be recommendations that come forth that require something like that.
I just wanted to make, I'm on redevelopment now, and in that meeting where we agreed to ask the council for a 50% match, I made the comment that I'm for asking the council for the match, but when on a different night and when I'm sitting in a different chair, I may be voting differently. I don't know why redevelopment isn't paying for the whole thing. Everybody is obviously on one voice of nine, but this is a redevelopment project. I don't fully wrap my mind around, other than them just wanting to share costs. I don't know why they're not just paying for this, but that's just me.
I see it as a planning project equally as much as a redevelopment project. So maybe that's more driven from me that I'm making that ask. And I understand completely where you're coming from, that it is going to impact redevelopment generally of 10th Street in that old corridor. But I'm going to put my planner hat on, and there's a lot of things that's going to come out of this. They're going to be planning improvements. And so I obviously don't have a capital improvement or planning improvement fund. I get funds from general council, from the general fund, and obviously redevelopment has a TIF. So that's maybe partially coloring why I'm here tonight, is that I'm coming to you as planning director saying I'd like to lead this project, but point well taken, that's a possibility as well.
I'm in favor of this. It does worry me a bit that the incentives will be shifted from downtown to the zone, to the 10th Street corridor, as opposed to just expand it to include the corridor. So I just hope the administration would give some more thought to that so that we can continue the incentives that we have downtown, and we don't find that right when things are expanding that all of a sudden we are pushing away some people that could provide a great benefit to the downtown area, but for the need for the loan, for example. I also think this is good because, as Scott, Mr. Hawkins has mentioned a number of times, we're looking at where we can have the 6th district, which is all brand new and lively, and then people forget about downtown, or you have a limited number, and then no one wants to travel. But if we do a good job with this, then it'll make that journey a little bit more pleasant for the people out in the 6th district and for the people in the 1st district to go out to the 6th. So I think it's very important that we do this and do it right.
Scott, was your concern alleviated with Nathan's explanation of?
Well, and I do understand better where he's coming from, but even at that, what's the magic number? I don't know. It's certain, I did not get the feeling that this is half a planning project and half a redevelopment project, and we're paying half. So did somebody wants to throw out a different number? I mean, I just...
Well, I will throw out that...
I want it to happen.
Yeah.
I just want to discuss how much we're going to raise.
With trying, it's hard to get a hold of 9, but I did get a hold of the majority, and that responded back, or I did get a hold of, that pretty much the agreement was for that $25,000 for green space to be transferred to this project. So has anybody's thoughts or feelings changed on that? Because if we're all in agreement of that, that's a simple we just need to direct Heather to make a simple transfer for that $25,000. But she needs to nail that from us, and we needed to have this discussed.
I mean, plus the 50.
Well, we're just discussing the $25,000 right now.
You said the cost of the project total you estimate to be 120?
120 to 150.
Yeah.
So I was doing 75,
And I
75.
think you're asking for 75, but I'm addressing 25 of it right now because Heather needs to know what to do with that. Whatever we decide, she has the paperwork ready to go later on in the meeting right? Because we advertised high just in case.
The Greenway portion doesn't have any paperwork to go with it. It's just if you all make a motion to do that.
Right. That's why I wanted to kind of address that, so we got that taken care of, and then whatever's decided here, we'll be ready to take action on that later on in the meeting. Okay.
So the money from the Greenway, are we not obligated to that?
Mm-mm.
No.
They, which Nathan Pruitt is part of that, and email went out Now, matter of fact, no, we got an email from Chris Fox, which is the
Right.
treasurer of that. And I did meet and discuss this several times with the mayor, and which Les can speak up if any of that's changed, but everybody was in full agreement that it was not needed, so we took the action not to.
That was my understanding too. I talked to Chris as well.
Okay.
The redevelopment agreed to pay 75?
Half, up to 75.
I'm in support of that.
Can we have, talk about so she knows how to do it, can I have a motion about the 25? Would we need a motion for that? Just, okay.
I would suggest you do that, considering the fact that you've talked about having some extracurricular communications, that everybody maybe articulate why it is that they're choosing to vote tonight the way they are. In other words, I think we want to clear up the appearance that there was any straw vote or straw decisions made outside of this public hearing. When we talked about, thought there was support for that, so why don't you make a motion and vote on that and let everybody vote? For me, it makes me feel better.
Okay.
That makes sense?
So what are we voting? Are we going to vote to move the 25,000 and then have another vote to potentially put another 50? Is that what we're doing?
Yes. So do I have a motion for the 25,000?
I'll
Right.
motion.
I'll second.
So could you just make a little roll call here on this?
Councilperson White,
Aye.
Councilperson Sistani,
Yes.
Councilperson Yon. Yes. Councilperson Maples,
Yes.
Councilperson Hawkins,
Yes.
Council President Gill,
Yes.
Councilperson Owen,
Yes.
Councilperson Sammy.
Yes.
So for the record, I would just add, based upon the discussion that was had here in this open meeting, this vote was taken and everybody voted the way they did based upon the discussion that was had in the open. Correct?
Correct. Thank you.
I have a question.
Thanks, lawyer.
Do you need to have all the money in place before you put out the
It's gone
RFP?
that way.
No, I could
So
put
if
it
we were
out.
just to say 25,000, and we're still kind of working it out with redevelopment, can you still move forward with an RFP?
I will go back to redevelopment for a non-contingent vote if I don't get the full 75 tonight, because it was hinged on that from this group. And then after, assuming that they put another stamp of approval on this, I'll go ahead and probably put the RFP out to get responses back to see where the funding level comes in, what the range is. Hopefully 3 bids will come back, and I'll see what that actually is and see where the need fully is. That's a potential.
If we were to come up with $50,000, where would it come from?
You have an additional appropriation ordinance on for tonight for public hearing at your next meeting, and it says.
Special projects.
From the reserves I'd edit.
From edit?
And also for the record, when I wanted to make sure that they understood, Mr. Fox, it was the treasurer of Green, and he sent an email out, which I think council was involved in, and he explained what happened and what's going to happen to green space, and Greenway, I'm sorry.
2 different things.
I was like,
I just want to make sure I get this right, so I don't want anybody to think I was doing anything
Ohio
wrong or
Greenway
whatever.
Commission.
Right.
It's just about-
So I didn't know if there'd be any, questions or concerns, but I think Chris Fox pretty much talked to everybody to make sure there wasn't any. I don't know if anybody talked to Nathan Pruitt, but I did try to get a hold of the ones I could to see if they understood. And if that, because I wanted to make sure we weren't, if the council wanted to still give 25,000, I didn't want to go against any of that. So.
Well, and just to clarify, that email that we're speaking of did not talk about the 10th Street Corridor project.
That's correct. That's
So
absolutely
That
correct.
was just an email saying we shouldn't do the 25 for the green.
Just saying
This
we
was
don't
just-
need the 25,000 for
And I
the
received a
Greenway.
text from President Gill regarding the 25, just with me directly, so it wasn't, no violation of the open door.
It just makes my comfort zone better.
So just to clarify, because I think Ed asked a good question, that if there wasn't a support, contingent on, or what redevelopment voted contingent on, it would not delay the RFP, or I mean,
I'm
when's the next
feeling
redevelopment?
90% confident that it won't, but I'll have to take this
Because
back to redevelopment
redevelopment's
commission.
in 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, that's,
When I say no delay, I mean within 3 to 4 weeks. I'll have to take this vote back to redevelopment commission. Actually, they're meeting on the
there a
15th or
special meeting?
16th because of spring break. They've moved it up.
now, if this were to pass tonight, you mentioned that you would release the RFP tomorrow, correct? I'm
No,
pretty sure you said that
it wouldn't
right.
go out tomorrow.
That
It would
you-
go out soon.
Oh, I thought you said, okay. Well,
Soon.
The additional appropriation that you have for $50,000 coming up.
Has to be
later
approved
in the meeting
again.
Has to be approved on the 20th of March, yes.
But the RFP can be sent out without,
Yeah, I can
That's what
still,
I thought, was that
Yeah.
it's-
I can do it within a couple weeks. I just need to fine tune the language and make sure it's all
Because see,
correct.
he's just doing a best guess estimate of what this is even going to cost.
And
It
how-
may not.
How long is the period that the RFP will be out for?
It'll probably be no more than 45 days. Probably 30.
And did the record show that motion did pass? Okay. Okay.
Just, if it's worth anything, I'll support the rest of it coming out of redevelopment. I don't think we should be appropriating more out of edit, for what it's worth.
I couldn't quite hear you, so you're good with the 25,000?
Yes.
At this point?
Yes.
Okay.
but no more from edit or from the general at this point.
I mean, if we could find it in the budget existing, then I would be okay with it, but not an additional above the budget.
Is that like a motion?
Nope.
It's just a comment.
It certainly is not.
That's kind of like that contingency. We're voting.
I don't think we need another motion there, unless somebody wants to.
We have a budget item coming up.
Yeah, there's an additional appropriation later on the agenda, but it's an ordinance, isn't it, of additional
The
appropriation?
final vote won't be until,
There
we
would
will,
be. There will be a vote tonight.
because we'll have a
Right.
public
So it could-
hearing
it could
next
fail
meeting too.
tonight.
Okay. So we want to wait and
We're going to take
discuss.
this lingering pause as a
We'll take
sign
this
to move
lingering-
on, or?
Huh?
I'm okay with that.
All right, well, we'll just move on then. We'll discuss the rest of it when that comes up in the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we got Mr. Merkley, a public hearing. Will this be OR 8? 9? No, it's be 10, won't it? Will this be,
And another possibility of funding for that instead of edit, I get them confused. CUMCAP development, you have quite a bit of money in there.
Now, that's a different story because they're restricted uses.
The money does not come out from that. Development. There's two CUMCAP funds. There's CUMCAP improvement, CUMCAP development. CUMCAP improvement has a specific list of what you can spend it on.
It's like the technology.
You all took money for IT out of there. CUMCAP development has a list, but also has a catch-all phrase, all other legally authorized uses.
oh, and you must have misunderstood when I asked that question, and you said no, so I,
Yeah. So that just gives you another, if you didn't want to go into edit, I mean, I think there's quite a bit of money in there.
I know we took some out for art, didn't we?
Allie's like, oh.
Just hear
That's
action, I
that's
get
one that
excited.
comes for art,
Yeah.
one of
On
them.
your sheet.
Yeah.
Both accounts are the edit and the capital development fund.
So
Can us look it up.
development, let's just say a key word there, I'm just,
Heather's excited that
Look
she
at
could
information
say that in the
front of
meeting.
us.
Well, but I have moved on though to the ordinance for.
you have, the next three ordinances are somewhat related, specifically the next two. They are rezonings, petitions for rezoning filed by Jim Calvary on behalf of the Nicholas Development. The next two concern the same parcel of property. The first ordinance, you are zoning that property at 3511 East 10th Street, and this comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission to zone this property from M2 multifamily to C2 medium-large general commercial. Assuming that you do that, then you are going to then zone that same property from what you just zoned it, C2, to a PUD, Plan Unit Development. And Mr. Calvary is here to present. He was right there, he's moving.
And that is because you have to have C2 before you
Yes.
can have a...
And then the ordinance after that is a different applicant, different petition, but it's property that's nearby. So, but the next two, and these all require separate public hearings. So,
Thank you, Mr. Merkley. Good evening, Jim Calvary, Nickley's Development, 6060 Dutchman's Lane, Louisville, Kentucky. I'm here to answer any questions. What we have done with Mr. Merkley's help and your planning director, Mr. Pruitt, is worked with the city to accommodate a third traffic light to line up on 10th Street, to line up with the property on the, what I would call the southeast side of 10th Street. In order to do that, we had to purchase a smaller piece of property because we didn't own it to create that. So that's what we did. It's 1.1 acres in total of property that we are rezoning to C2. And then we're just going to blend it into our existing plan development, and I've submitted that to Nathan and the commission, so it'll go under all the same rules that Jeffersonville Commons, our development that we've got under construction, is held to.
Will you please clarify exactly where this, I think there...
This is right in front of the new Kroger development, correct?
It is, correct, yes. Yep.
So
So you'll have 3 traffic lights starting up near what I'll call the northeast end of the property near Sellers Court and
Candy Lane.
Candy Lane area.
Herb
and
Lewis.
Herb Lewis, correct. So that'll be Herb Lewis. Then the next one is going to be named Slosh Farms Way. And that's the next one down. And then the third traffic light is named Ellingsworth Dairy Drive. Yeah, I apologize. I'm not familiar with any of those names, but
All right, then.
What he said.
They're all local.
It's historic.
yeah.
Ellsworth Dairy Farm. You're old like us. You're old like us. You visited the dairy farm from the Roman schools.
Well, I did Google it, and it was quite impressive. I'd never heard those about it, so, but they're real.
Us kids, we grew up in their milk, so...
Yep, there you
I'm
go.
still here, so...
Matt, I know that this was an issue or a topic when we were both on redevelopment together. Are you still feel?
I absolutely was against 3 stoplights
Yeah.
going in through here
I think we both
because
were.
we seem to throw up stoplights everywhere someone asks, and there are already multiple stoplights in that area that don't align and aren't planned correctly. I understand that you don't have anything to do with that, but I was very vocal against 3 more stoplights. But I think I've lost that battle.
I think you have. But I think that if one way to look at this is, and I'll be able to share the information with you all through whatever avenue Mr. Merkley and Mr. Pruitt suggest I share it. These traffic lights will line up, and they will be synced.
Synchronized.
Correct. And then the other thing that I think that you look forward to, as with what you just saw with Nathan presenting, is as this area develops, and if it does in fact develop like some people are projecting it, I think down the road you'll be glad that you've got them. We went ahead and purchased a traffic counter ourselves instead of hiring consultants all the time to do it. I finally said, look, this can't be rocket science, so I went ahead and purchased one, and we've got it out there now, counting traffic now, and just with that opening of that new bridge, the numbers are astounding, going both ways. And I think right now people are trying to figure out the novelty of the bridge, which way do I go, which way do I not go, so I'm going to leave it out there for probably a couple months and just see what happens with it, and I'll be glad to share that information with you all, because I think that'd be something you all would want.
Matt, I'll just go on the record saying I'm in agreement with you over your concern. I know I expressed that several times in redevelopment. I am pleased, though, that some of our concerns have been addressed with making sure that they're synchronized. At least
Intersection that line up, the
yeah,
lining of it.
so, I mean, it makes it a little more palatable. So I appreciate that. I know that was something extra that you did. But overall, I'm in support of everything that the project's already presented and has started to develop, and as well as this. So.
Is there any more questions or comments before I open up public hearing? Okay,
I'll just have a comment.
Okay.
Once again, we're turning a multifamily
That's several times
parcel
now.
into commercial. And not long ago, we were said we don't have enough multifamily in the city, and we got to jump all these hoops to do that. And I understand location and things like that, but just pointing out, we're doing that again.
If I could address that, I think he brings up a very good point. The piece of this was so little, you couldn't put anything on it, but what we did do in the back of our PD is we have all that reserved for, I think it's 16.4 or 5 units per acre, so we've got that reserved for multifamily.
You say the Jeffersonville Commons development encompassed a
Yes.
multifamily?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Right.
Yep, everything in the back, I think that's a total of, property that we own in the back is roughly, we've got about 13 more acres in the back, and then the Lander, Miller, and the Waves piece was also set aside for that as well.
Just won't be on the front door.
And not to just keep beating it up, but the stoplight issue, thank you for battling that, because we know
Yes,
there's
thank you.
more on the north side, and being the only one here that has to drive them every day, I'm convinced that the powers that be will not be satisfied until it takes me an hour to get to downtown Jeff, and then they'll stop with the traffic lights and the traffic. But, so, thanks for battling. I wish we didn't have so many.
All right. I'd like to officially open up the public hearing right now. Is there anybody that wishes to speak for or against the 1.1 acres of land at 3511 East 10th Street from an M2 to a C2? Seeing none, I'm going to officially close public hearing.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve 2017 OR 10?
10.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Merkley, you're still up. This is the same thing, going from the C2 to the C2 PUD.
Same person.
Okay, so I'm going to have to, but I have to officially open up the public hearing. If there anybody who wishes to speak for or against the rezone from a C2 to C2 PUD? Seeing none, I'm officially closed public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And then the last one we have from M2 to a C2 for the same,
And this is the parcel directly adjacent,
adjacent.
This is a different application.
Oh, sorry.
but it's the next
It's still at the same address.
adjacent parcel.
Yes, this is adjacent to the property. This would be closer toward,
Closer to Bissing Park Road.
yes, closer to Vissing Park. It's about 6 acres. There, the applicant is requesting that it be zoned from multifamily to C2, medium to large commercial. And this comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission, and the applicant is here, or has representatives here, and I will turn that over to either one of them.
Jennifer Commissar-Kern with Accurus Engineering. We are the remnant of the parent parcel that Mr. Calvary just presented, and we are immediately adjacent to the Jefferson Commons property. We're the last piece that is not C2 along this corridor. I have a map of that, but we're suspiciously right in the middle of an entire stretch that is all C2, and our property is only about 6 acres. And we're here, and the owner's representative is here as well, if you have any questions.
You're not asking for a gas station, are you?
No, we're not asking for a gas station.
What are you putting in? Can you?
Right now, and there's a plat that has also been applied for where the right-of-way from Jefferson Commons would be extended into our property so that we would have the use of the traffic signal, so there wouldn't be multiple access points. So the right-of-way that would service their out parcels would also continue onto our property. And it's, like I said, it's only about 6 acres, so we're looking right now at 3 to 4 smaller out parcel size tracts.
So She says, no gas station, and she's planning to use someone else's stoplight. She doesn't need her own.
We may have that, it will turn out in, right now it's proposed as a right in, right out. There'll be a median across from us, so you can't make a left out of our one access on 10th Street.
Is there any question or comment for open up public hearing? Okay, at this time, I'm going to open up public hearings. Anybody wish to speak for or against the rezone from an M2 to C2 on the 6 acres of 3511 East 10th? Seeing none, I'm going to officially close.
Motion to approve. Oh, sorry.
No, that's great. I just had a quick comment. At planning and zoning, there were a couple people who showed up concerned about this property. They lived in the subdivision directly behind it. And as part of the condition, the property owners agreed not to ask for a variance as far as setbacks in that any of the property that is adjacent to residential. So just want to let you know. And that seemed to relieve the concerns of the people who came to speak.
Thank you
That's
for
all.
doing that. I appreciate that. Okay, I got a motion.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Heather Metcalf, an ordinance addition appropriation. And the public hearing will be on March 20th, 2017.
Do you want to do the easy one first for MVH fund, or do you want to jump right into the other one?
I'm eager. Let's do it.
Jump right in? All right. So we have an additional appropriation request for $50,000 from the edit fund for your special projects. It would be designated for that 10th Street project that Mr. Pruitt spoke of earlier. I can also, if you wanted to, if you'd like to amend this ordinance, we can add the Cume Capital Development Fund, and then you all can make the choice.
Which is Fund 403, right?
Yes.
So we've got surplus reserves of almost 640,000 in that account. Am I looking at that right? On my
That's what I thought.
spreadsheet.
We're looking at Cume Capital Development? 639, yes.
Okay. So I could, counsel, make a motion to amend this to have the 50,000 come out of the 403 instead of the 444, right? We could amend this in the motion and then approve it as amended so that you could, do you still have time to have
Yes.
advertise the public hearing for the 20th?
Yes.
Okay.
So are we combining so we got the 800 one, and then I have the one for 10, or the 50,000.
I'm just talking about the 50,000 at the moment.
Went out of order, I'm
You went out of
sorry.
order.
I just have a question on, it doesn't seem like we need to do anything yet because the RFP has not gone out. We don't know what the proposals are going to come back at, what dollar amount. And we're not convinced that we're going to utilize this money to pay the full amount. And if we go ahead and appropriate the money, then once you have the money appropriated, it's pretty easy to spend it. And so I would have us consider thinking about waiting till the proposals come back, waiting to see if redevelopment wants to pay any more or will pay any more. And then at the time we have to do it, it'll just take a month. And we'll know after we have the dollar amounts. Right now, we're sending a signal to whoever reads the RFP that, oh, we got 75 set aside by redevelopment and 75 by here, so we're going to put our quote in at 149. That's just a thought. I like
Won't the
Cuba.
RFP say the amount? No?
We're asking for them to bid on it.
Yeah, they're doing a bid. It's basically a bid.
He's talking about knowledge that they might have received from this public meeting.
Understand. Well, Nathan, can you come up?
Yes.
Will the RFP talk about dollar figure whatsoever
It will not reference project cost.
at all?
It will not.
There's also a concern that if another consultant comes in below the price that you're proposing that you might not get the bid as well. So there is a competitive element to it as well, at least partially. But
I
I
would
think
be
it's a
thinking-
valid point that you're bringing up.
I would be thinking that if I was a consultant that did the research to find out if this was appropriated, if there's some hesitation on the behalf of the city, then I wouldn't take the time to put together a bid. I'd find somebody who had the money in place to pay me.
No, I asked if I put a motion.
But we were talking about not taking it out of edit.
Taking it out of
Yeah, I
the
won't support it
403,
out of that.
correct?
What about a motion for the first reading?
All this ordinance does is just advertise it.
And then have the public hearing and then decide to not vote for it after the public hearing?
I have to advertise the public hearing and what's going to be at the public hearing 10 days prior to it, so I have to get it to the paper tomorrow, pretty much so that they can have it advertised on Thursday.
You just cannot
Yeah, you can't go above it.
follow around it.
So what number is this?
13?
So I'll make a motion to amend 2017 OR 13 to strike the GL number and replace it with the proper GL number from the 403 fund
In capital development,
in capital development.
yes.
We got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion, and a second. Any further comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Did you get the,
Nathan, opposed.
okay. Motion carries though, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 6-2.
Okay. So now we have ordinance,
Sorry.
now this is the ordinance with the 800, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was reversed in my packet.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, wait a minute. We
This
amended
is
it.
from
We didn't-
a,
We still have to vote.
we didn't-
Oh,
We just voted to amend.
yes, that's right,
thank you
sorry.
for catching that.
I'd
My
make-
mind is,
Make a motion to pass on the first reading, 17 OR 13 as amended.
Second.
got a motion?
So we're going to have, before this happens, we will have another vote on this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Potentially another 2 votes.
Potentially.
So I got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Then your next ordinance is in regards to a excavating permit that was received last year. The company decided not to do that permit, so that they're wanting their money back for that, for $800.
Does that happen? Do we refund permits that are applied for and
This is
Utilized?
this is the first time for these excavating permits that we are aware of. There are some refunds that are done through the Parks Department, like if you rented out the field house for something and didn't do it, then we
well, that's a
refund
rental,
them.
not a permit. I mean,
Right.
it's not my fault that they didn't exercise the rights that the permit gave them.
I don't know the answer.
All I know is a developer came in and requested a boring permit from the city engineer's office, which
Yes.
that was issued, and then the developer came back in December and said, we decided we're not going to bore, so they wanted a refund. And this is the first it's ever happened.
That I'm
so-
aware of, yes. For
When
this
was the permit
this
issued?
type of permit. I'm not sure of any others I don't know if Nathan
How
knows
much
of any.
time passed between when the permit was issued and when they requested their refund? I mean, was it the next day where they're like, oh crap, we made a mistake, or was
No,
this
you just, what
months
did you,
later?
when did they get the permit, did you say?
She just said they
She
came
just-
in December.
Yeah, I don't know.
The permit was issued in December. I don't know when they came back. I know this has been ongoing because nobody knew how to handle it, so that's why I consulted the State Board of Accounts. How do we handle this to make sure it's done the right way? Because it is the first time this has ever happened. And this is the way that we were told to handle the refund.
And then it doesn't affect the motor vehicle budget this way.
Right.
Just paying
It's
the
a
money.
separate.
Yeah.
No big
I-
deal.
Yeah, it's just refunding his money. He didn't.
Pick your
so-
battles.
but-
I can't imagine that people are going to be lining up to get refunds for
I mean,
permits that they don't want
Does it set a precedent?
if it's the first time it's
Lawyer
happened.
guy, what does this do for precedent's sake?
I mean, if somebody comes in tomorrow and says, we're going to build an auto manufacturer at River Ridge, and we're going to pay $14 million for a capacity fee to the sewer department, and then 6 months later they say, never mind, we need our $14 million back, I'm not going to tell them, okay, here you go, let me write you a check.
Well, there was an interesting piece of litigation. I was
Or I'm not going to want to anyway.
Write a huge check back to somebody over an interpretation of ordinance regarding this thing. So, yeah, I think that the issue is a concern, and you put yourself in an interesting place if you start establishing set rules for somebody, set rules for somebody else.
Interesting.
Yeah, I
We
share
don't
Mr.
have a
Roberts' concern.
policy on it.
That's what I was going to ask, do we have a policy? Do we say you can get a refund? Or no refunds?
Never done.
I don't think.
We're deciding that tonight.
Do the developers in the room, I mean, is this a thing? I don't know.
Well,
It's weird. I would never ask for it back.
well,
I was hoping that I didn't know.
you authorized.
Do you want to be quoted for that? Yeah.
I'll tell you what, if we pass this, he will ask for it back.
I don't know.
See if he gets it.
Motion to table.
Slippery slope that's
Second.
when it's done right.
Okay, I got a motion. Do I have a second to table? Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. White seconded. Mr. White. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Do you still need
Thank
this, is this also going to be advertised for public hearing at the next meeting? Is that what that means, being
Well, we
tabled?
tabled it. I think we
Means
need to
goes
tidy
away?
that. Should we advertise to be safe, Mr. Wilder?
I would suggest yes.
Or Larry, rather?
No, whatever you want to call me. Hey, you, should we advertise for it? Yes. Probably. That makes my comfort zone, again, go better.
So the public, for a public hearing at the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a report from our city council attorney?
Right. But you can't do that.
Once again, I'll just say, this is the best family I've been in for quite some time.
Well, welcome to the family.
We're an odd family.
That could be the saddest thing.
Do I have any? The only department head I see is Mr. Pruitt. He's got nothing. Okay. We already handled public comment, so I'm going to move on to council comments. So I will start with Councilperson White.
No comment.
Councilperson Edzy.
One quick one. With all the lights going up on 10th Street and all the traffic going up on 10th Street, what we're going to get is a whole bunch of people going down Charlestown Pike. So we better start planning the widening of Charlestown Pike. That's all.
Here.
Councilperson Young.
I have two comments. The first, just my best wishes to Mr. Rodriguez and his family. He's definitely in all of our thoughts, and I was very saddened to hear what happened on Saturday and have been trying to follow closely, so he's in my prayers. My only other comment is just I'm very excited for the 10th Street plan to be happening. I think that's exactly what our next step should be. I just want to reiterate some of my concerns I've made over the past year about making sure that when we're thinking about what should go on 10th Street, it makes sense for the income of the area and for the businesses that are doing well in the area. I don't think it's wise to look at every intersection and every artery like it's Veterans Parkway, because it's not. So I just want to see that reiterated in the plans and that it makes sense for that area.
Okay. Councilperson?
Just want to give a shout out to Jeff Fire. They've assisted two other local agencies on major fires, and thanks for what they do.
Okay. Councilperson Hawkins?
Shockingly, I have a few things. One, reiterate what Callie said about Josh. I mean, something like that, I mean, he's younger than I am, and really makes you appreciate every day, makes you take a second and appreciate every day and what you got. And to go off what Ed said, that is a conversation about Charlestown Pike that I've already had with the mayor more than once, and that's at a very high on the priority, at least now, priorities change. So once these, hopefully Homans and 10th Street, and then hopefully Charlestown Pike, because that is a very dangerous situation, and it's going to get nothing but worse. I'd like for everybody to try to make yourself aware of the legislation and how it will affect Jeffersonville, the city of Jeffersonville with the county, what do you want to call
Going
it?
after the
Bailout,
levy.
whatever you want to call it. The
Levy.
county fix. That it is, there are different possibilities. All of them have 6 zeros at the end of them. So it will affect us. So just make yourself aware that that's going to be happening, not this year, but soon. And also, I don't know who to contact about this, but on Utica-Sellersburg and Highway 62, at that interchange by the in-between Community Bank and Circle K, there is now a pit that has developed 1 foot off the side of the road where people have driven their car into. They attempt to turn around, do a U-turn, and they're not bright enough to stop in time, and then their car goes into the pit. This happens more than you would think that it happens. So if we could please pass on to Andy or the mayor to maybe put a guardrail if we can't do anything about the pit, so it at least prevents people from going into the pit. All right, and that's all I have.
Okay. Councilperson Owen.
A couple of things also, keeping Mr. Rodriguez and his family in prayer. Wanted to note, Mr. Hawkins, for you especially, NDOT announced, I think today, that they are awarding a contract to replace the bridge on Highway 403 between Charlestown and Sellersburg. I know a lot of people up Salem Noble Road use that as a alternate route while the Salem Noble Road bridge is out.
Now, are you referring to the very large bridge that goes over
By Ray's Lawn and Garden, over Spring Street.
Yeah.
Or Spring Street.
Silver Creek.
Silver Creek. That was an S. They haven't announced a timeline on when that project will take place, but we just want to make sure that we push our counterparts to...
Well, and if that causes closures, that will put more of a strain on Charlestown Pike.
Right. Well...
Because people will cut across to get to there to go south.
Right. But the bridge at Salem Noble Road is on schedule, from what I'm told, and should be open by the end of the month, if not the very first of next month. I know they were down there making good progress today. And then the last thing I mentioned when we were talking about the financials, voided check that I'd turned in last year. We, as council members, don't get paid for being on boards and commissions such as redevelopment, and I was indirectly accused of seeking that appointment for financial gain, but as a council member, we're not allowed to receive the compensation that would normally come with that appointment. And a check was incorrectly issued to me last year and returned because I wasn't supposed to receive that. So just to throw that out there in case anybody was asking what check I was talking about.
Councilperson Samuel.
No comment.
Okay. I did... Huh? Okay. I was actually going to bring that up. I was actually going to congratulate, I have it written right here, Dustin, for you received several awards for his chili, and we all are in agreement that if we have workshops and long nights, that you should bring chili. So, congratulations for that. I think you've got the People Choice Award, and that is correct. Good deal. Hey, I think last meeting, Mr. Hawkins brought up about our insurance, because we're in contract negotiations. I did meet with HR, and as a follow-up as to the meeting that we had, Ed Z and I had on her concerning the clinic, that was up for renewal. That contract was renewed through Board of Public Works for the 2 years. I did email the information out and for the last several years, I think we went back as far as 14 or 15, to let you know, see the increase in the pattern of what our insurance costs, and that's public record. Anybody can receive that. And then also, I, as a courtesy, also emailed out the copy of the bill that he was talking about, the county, that was HB 1489 that we were given from Representative Steve Stemler, myself, Nathan, and Ed and Heather. met with him on Friday to see where we were at. This will change because it is being passed over now into the Senate, so we will have to keep a close eye on that and see how that affects us. Okay, Mr. Murphy?
If I could, the city or the administration has retained UMBAL to do an independent analysis of that bill and its fiscal, if any, implications on the city of Jeffersonville, that being our levy, our tax collection from income taxes, and et cetera. So, because I know there's a lot of, I won't say misinformation, but a lot of salesmanship is going around as a way to sell this bill. And the bottom line is the mayor and the administration want to make sure that this bill does not affect the city of Jeffersonville in a detrimental way. And hopefully the next week or two, we'll have UMBAL's report back. I'm having a conference call with UMBAL tomorrow, and they'll start looking and getting with Heather and looking into that. So we should hopefully have some information soon, and we will let you know as to what the implications.
Appreciate you all doing that, and also too, something that we need to take into account. The question that both Heather and myself, we did pose is how is this going to affect us with our circuit breakers? Is it going to be inside or outside the circuit breaker? That's why I want to really keep a close eye, because you all know that last year we got hit with the highest circuit breaker to date, so we're just going to keep on top of all of that. And the final thing that I have is, as you all are aware, last year we gave out of edit $250,000 to the airport. I don't remember, I think Councilperson Owen and Councilperson Zastani were the contacts then. I think the public would like to know, and I would like to know, I would like to see a member from the airport board come and give us a report. That is $250,000 that the city of Jeff gave, just to see if they're on track and where they're going, just to be accountable. I think that's one that kind of honoring Councilperson Rodriguez. He always says, you know, when we give money, they really need to be reporting back, and he's absolutely correct. So is there somebody that can reach out to? Okay, I appreciate that. It doesn't, I mean, there's not a timeline on it, but just if they can fit something like that into the schedule. And then I did go into this afternoon and spend a couple hours with our city clerk. It was a lot worse than what they anticipated, so she will be out longer. There's no weight bearing, and she was in surgery for quite a bit today, but she's a trooper and strong and came through it, so keep her in our thoughts and prayers as well. And I'll keep you all updated to what the family allows me to keep you all updated on as far as Mr. Rodriguez. He is improving, which is a great sign, and they were hoping that even tonight measure to be taken to really show that improvement, and he won't be has to be so sedated. So that's good news. So continue, please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. So that's all I have. So I'll take a motion to adjourn. I think.
I just wanted to follow Wes. As soon we were in the contract negotiations, so we talked about how this will affect that. So whenever you do something, you can decide to get information that would help us with that. We really appreciate getting that, so we can.
I've asked on ball Russia. Look at the accounts.
Was there anything else?
Yes, I still need to pass around 2017 OR-7. I just had a question. Do I need to note the contingency that Councilperson Zastani?
Yes.
So note it on the actual ordinance? Or just in the minutes? Okay. All right. Well, then I'm going to pass this around. If you could sign it, please.
Yes, so do not leave until that is signed.
It's only resolved to
Right. I knew I had to do it in the minutes. I just wanted to make sure I didn't mess up the ordinance.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Meeting is adjourned.